master the art of fearless living. Not by erasing fear, but by standing in its path and daring it to move first. The weak flee from fear, mistaking its presence for danger, mistaking its weight for a sign to turn back. But fear is not an enemy. It is the gatekeeper of power. Those who master it, who refuse to kneel before it, unlock something rare: the ability to act in the face of everything that seeks to break them. Fear thrives in hesitation. It feeds on delay, on indecision, on the seconds wasted in uncertainty. The moment you hesitate, fear tightens its grip, whispering stories of failure, of risk, of pain. The weak listen. They shrink, they rationalize, they retreat into the shadows of safety. The strong cut through hesitation like a blade through flesh. They move before the mind has time to interfere. Fearless living is not about never feeling fear. It is about never obeying it. The world does not reward the fearful. It devours them. The cautious, the timid, the ones who tread lightly in hopes of avoiding pain. They are the first to fall. Fear is the great illusionist, creating obstacles where none exist, turning the possible into the impossible with nothing but a whisper. The strong see through its tricks. They step forward when fear tells them to stop. They press harder when fear tells them to slow down. And in doing so, they render fear powerless. Fear is a master of deception. It disguises itself as wisdom, as logic, as self-preservation. It tells you that waiting is smart, that playing small is safe, that risk is reckless. But the greatest risk of all is allowing fear to make your choices for you. The weak let fear lead, and in doing so they become prisoners of their own minds. The strong understand that every great thing lies on the other side of fear, and so they move. Pain does not belong to the fearless. It belongs to those who resist fear and act anyway. The weak assume that to live without fear is to live without suffering, but suffering is inevitable. The difference is simple. The fearful suffer in hesitation, in regret, in the slow rot of a life unlived. The fearless suffer in action, in movement, in the burn of a battle fought and won. The pain of action is temporary. The pain of fear lasts forever. The shadows belong to those who master fear. The world is filled with those who wait for courage to come, for fear to leave, for a perfect moment that does not exist. The strong do not wait. They walk into the darkness with their hands steady, their minds unshaken. The weak tell themselves they need more time. The strong understand that the time is always now. Fear does not disappear. It is simply left behind by those who refuse to be slowed by it. The art of fearless living is not for the faint-hearted. It's not for those who seek comfort, for those who wish to be held, for those who need safety above all else. It's for the ones who crave something more, for those who would rather risk everything than live in the shadow of what could have been. Fearless living is not about recklessness. It is about refusing to let fear be the architect of your fate. Every choice is a battle. Every hesitation is a loss. Fearless living is won in the smallest moments, when the weak step back and the strong step forward, when the mind screams to stop and the body moves anyway. When fear tries to grip the throat and the voice rises above it. Mastering fear is not about eliminating it. It is about becoming stronger than it, over and over until fear itself bows in your presence. Fear will never disappear. It will wait in the corners, watching, hoping for a moment of weakness. But the strong know the game. They do not look for a life without fear. They look for a life where fear is irrelevant, a life where action comes first, where movement is instinct, where hesitation is a forgotten concept. Fearless living is not about never feeling afraid. It is about making fear irrelevant. The brain is a liar. It magnifies every risk, distorts every fear, paints failure in colors darker than reality itself. It whispers of disaster where none exists, turns the possible into the impossible, with nothing more than a thought. The weak believe these illusions, letting their own minds imprison them in hesitation. But the strong know better. They do not wait for their thoughts to grant them permission. They override them with movement. Fear is not real, only danger is. The mind creates fear where there is no threat, multiplying shadows into monsters, turning uncertainty into a death sentence. This is the mechanism of survival, a relic of a past, where hesitation meant life and boldness meant death. But the world has changed, and those who still listen to this ancient fear remain trapped in it. The strong see fear for what it is, an outdated system in need of dismantling. The brain clings to negativity, hoards it, feeds it, because pain leaves a deeper mark than pleasure. 1,000 victories will fade before the sting of a single failure. The weak become slaves to this bias, defining themselves by their worst moments instead of their strongest ones. But courage is not built on memories. It is built on defiance. The strong refuse to let past wounds dictate their future wars. They press forward despite the scars because action is the only answer. The mind does not seek truth. It seeks safety. It will tell you that you are not ready, that the risk is too great, that the danger is too high. The weak listen, mistaking the voice of fear for the voice of wisdom. The strong understand the wisdom is forged in action, not in avoidance. Knowledge is gained in the fire, in the strike, in the moment of movement. Fear speaks in caution, but wisdom speaks in experience. To act in the presence of fear is the highest form of power. The weak wait for fear to subside before moving. The strong move while fear still clings to them, dragging it forward like a chained beast. In time, fear ceases to fight. It becomes irrelevant, a shadow fading in the presence of momentum. This is the nature of courage. Not the absence of fear, but the mastery of it. Negativity bias is the chain that binds the mind. It convinces the weak that failure is permanent, that pain is unbearable, that risk is reckless. The strong shatter these illusions with action. They do not ask whether success is guaranteed. They ask only if movement is possible, and if it is, they take it. They step forward while the weak step back. They move while others freeze. And in that movement, they prove fear wrong. Action is the only antidote. The mind will never stop producing fear, will never cease magnifying the dangers. But fear cannot survive in the presence of movement. It weakens with every step, with every strike, with every act of defiance. The strong do not debate with their minds. They do not argue with fear. They act, and through action they render fear powerless. Fear respects movement. It flees from those who refuse to kneel before it. The weak think fear can be reasoned with, that it can be negotiated. But fear is not a force that listens. It is a force that dominates, unless it is dominated first. The strong establish dominance through action, forcing fear into submission. They do not fear fear itself. They make fear fear them. Negativity is a cage built by the mind and strengthened by inaction. The weak believe its bars are real. The strong recognize them as illusions. The only way out is forward, through the fire, through the doubt, through the chaos. The mind will scream, the heart will race, the body will resist. But movement is the only way out. To sit still is to surrender. To move is to escape. Master the art of fearless living, because fear is a liar and action is the only truth. The world belongs to those who refuse to be ruled by illusions.